In this episode of the Red and Gold Report, we're going to be breaking down the Chiefs' final regular season game, and we're going to be updating you on all the news around Chiefs Kingdom. So, what was the storyline of Saturday's game? Well, I got to start with the Chiefs fans. The Chiefs fans, we traveled. I was at the game in Denver, and it felt like 1/3 of the stadium was in red. Seriously, look at this video I took at the game. There's a Chiefs fan, and 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 a Chiefs fan. Chiefs fans were everywhere. Look at all of these Chiefs fans at Arrowhead West. I was even able to get a few tomahawk chop cheers started in my section at the game. There were so many Chiefs fans in my section. Now, unfortunately, even though they had plenty of fan support, the Chiefs came out looking pretty flat against the Denver Prancing Ponies. Midway through the second quarter, the Chiefs were down 7-14 thanks to our defense making Broncos quarterback Drew Lock look like Usain Bolt as he scampered unhampered for 2 touchdown runs in the first half. Then the Broncos went up again in the third quarter with a 47-yard run, so it was no surprise when Denver was winning halfway through the fourth quarter. They had earned it. They even finished the game with significantly more yards per play than the Chiefs. The Broncos O was at the Chiefs' 9-yard line after a drive where the Chiefs defense had been stopping the Broncos offense about as well as I could stop a running train. It looked like Denver was about to add another touchdown to their lead halfway through the fourth quarter and take home the W. And right in that moment was when everything changed. The Chiefs sent the house on a blitz, and defensive end Melvin Ingram hit the running back just as he was getting the ball handed off to him. It sent the ball bouncing to the ground. Chiefs linebacker Nick Bolton scooped that ball up, took it over 80 yards to the house. Arrowhead West, Mile High Stadium, filled with 20,000 Chiefs fans erupted in joy. Mahomes added on a 2-point conversion on the ground. Mecole Hardman had a 44-yard catch and run to start the next drive, and a short pass to Kelsey at the 6-yard line just after the 2-minute warning put the game away for the Chiefs. That was the storyline of the game. One play that changed absolutely everything. Oh, and you know what? Of course, we also need to mention that this was Kansas City's 13th straight win against the Orange Smoothies. And hey, real quick as we get going, for the best weekly Chiefs news, make sure to like the Red and Gold Report on YouTube and follow the Red and Gold Report on Facebook. The MVP of the game has to go to linebacker Nick Bolton because, hey, this game was all about one play, and on that one play, it was Nick Bolton who returned the fumble all the way to the end zone. But it wasn't just that one play. Bolton led the team in tackles, and with how the other Chiefs defenders were playing against the run, had Bolton not been out there, the Broncos could have, racked up 400 yards of rushing. Bolton is finishing the season leading the Chiefs defense in tackles with 112 as a rookie. So the MVP of the game has to go to Nick Bolton. What were the other positives for the Chiefs on Saturday? One positive was that wide receiver Mecole Hardman had his best game of the season, leading the Chiefs with 8 catches for 103 yards. He had 5 first downs and added 1 rush for 10 yards, but more on him in a few minutes. Also, while he didn't touch the ball too often, backup running back Jerick Mckinnon played very well. He had 24 yards on the ground on just 5 carries. He added 26 yards on 3 receptions in the air. He ran hard, he ran fast, he ran determined, and wow, his third quarter 15-yard touchdown catch where he broke 3 tackles was absolutely incredible. I want to see the team using him way more in the playoffs. Wide receiver Byron Pringle also had a good game. He had 5 catches for 56 yards and was the best Chiefs downfield receiving option. Also, the Chiefs' pass blocking was top-notch, with all 5 linemen turning in solid pass blocking grades. We also need to mention defensive end Melvin Ingram. He did not have a complete game, but he did come up with a forced fumble on the one play that changed everything, and by my count, he had 2 tackles for loss. And another positive in the game was Patrick Mahomes' effort on the ground. Yes, our quarterback led the rushing attack with 9 carries. He also led the rushing attack with 54 yards. He ran for 3 first downs, and he also ran for that 2-point conversion in the fourth quarter. Mahomes is just so sneaky and crafty in how he runs the ball when plays break down. But actually, that's a good transition for us as we talk about players who struggled, because while Mahomes was great on the ground, he had a rare day of struggling through the air. There were 2 passes that should have been intercepted but were dropped by the Broncos defense. He also only went 5 of 15 with his passes 10 yards downfield or more, and he had no deep passes completed. And you know what? 76% of the Chiefs passing yards were actually after the catch. Also, it wasn't a good day for the Chiefs running game on offense. The offensive line just plain got owned in the running game. And Darrell Williams managed only 2.4 yards per carry. It also wasn't a good day for the Chiefs running game on defense either. You know, the Broncos had 191 yards on the ground, averaging 6.8 yards a pop. That hurt. The Chiefs defensive line was manhandled, and every linebacker not named Bolton struggled, and the safeties, they missed some really important tackles. And on a similar subject, the pass rush was very weak. In fact, no Chiefs defensive lineman registered more than a single pressure. Corner Charvarius Ward struggled for a second straight week. He allowed 68 of the Broncos' 173 yards passing. That's 39% of the yards. And you know what? That doesn't even include the play in the first quarter where he was completely burnt deep, but the Broncos quarterback, Drew Lock, overthrew the wide receiver. But maybe the worst of all thing on Saturday was the Broncos field crew. It might have not looked awful on TV, but in person, the field, the grass, was softer than day-old ice cream. I know it had snowed a few days before and they have a warm field, but the field was falling apart and players were slipping all over the place during the game. With those positives and negatives in mind, let's move on to a few insights that I don't want you to miss coming out of this game. One big insight from the game was the coach's use of Mecole Hardman. Now, it's no secret that Hardman has come under the scrutiny of the coaches this season, and he has struggled in a lot of games, yet he broke out on Saturday. So why? Well, it's simple. The coaches finally figure out how to use him. You see, Hardman is not a traditional downfield receiver. We have learned that from this season. He is way too small. He is short, he's skinny, he's too small to fight for contested passes, and his routes are not clean. However, when the ball is in his hands, he has all the speed you would ever need to do something with it. Get this, Hardman's 103 yards of receiving, of those 103 yards of receiving, 99 were yards after catch. That means that all 8 of his catches were essentially right at the line of scrimmage, and he was targeted 11 times in the game, so you know it was the coach's intentional decision to do this in a way to get him more involved. So don't miss this. Hardman can be dangerous, but only when used correctly on short throws that get him the ball quickly at the line of scrimmage. Another insight not to miss is the interesting situation with how similar our 4 running backs are playing right now. Get this. Of the Chiefs' 4 running backs, McKinnon has the highest yards per carry. Gore has the most runs over 20 yards. Williams has the most rushing yards, receiving yards, touchdowns, and receptions over 20 yards. Gore has the most yards per reception and longest reception. And Clyde Edwards-Helaire is the de facto starter. I mean, the funny thing about the Chiefs running backs right now is there's essentially no difference in output between these 4 players. It seems to just not matter who is out there at running back for the Chiefs. So with this week's game in the books, let's move on to recent Chiefs news. Let's start with the injuries. Unfortunately, right tackle Lucas Niang has been put on IR with a torn patellar tendon, but good news on the injury front. Hill and Kelsey are expected to be just fine after getting dinged up on Saturday. Hill had hurt his foot, his heel, in pregame warmups and ended up only running 11 routes on Saturday because of the injury, which is super weird because that's 2 weeks in a row where offensive starters were hurt in the pregame warmups. In other news, Andy Reid became the 5th head coach in NFL history to win 250 games, so way to go, Big Red. But of course, the big news is all about the playoff picture. Unfortunately, but predictably, the Titans beat the Texans on Sunday, meaning the Chiefs will have the 2nd seed in the AFC and will play the 7th seeded AFC team in the first week of the playoffs. As of the making of this video, that still means that the Chiefs are either going to be playing the Chargers, the Raiders, or the Steelers.
Hey, that'll do it for the Red and Gold Report. Thanks for watching this week. Make sure you hit the like and subscribe and all those good buttons, and go Chiefs.